Paul from Joe's, Colorado asked if we have any thoughts on the NFL draft. He said, I know it's not normally your lane, but I imagine there are few people who have watched more college football than you. I appreciate the compliment, Paul from Joe's, Colorado. No, I don't normally talk NFL draft on the show because we don't do NFL on the show. I obviously pay attention to the NFL draft, but I pay attention to it more from this side of the fence. Like I'm on the college football side of the fence, like pretty much everyone watching the show, and I'm watching guys sort of walk away. They're sort of leaving. They're departing the college football kind of containment area, and then they're going over to the NFL area. But I do have thoughts on several. Like I pulled up a lot of mock drafts today because I wanted to get a little bit of a flavor of what the mock draft scouting community types feel about the players that you and I have watched for several years. So I think Jeremiah Love could very well be the best player in the draft. Now, I know we get into, in the mock draft world, positions and positional value and all that sort of thing. And I know that, a tailback's not going number one overall in the draft. I get all that. But if we do that thing where we just go best available regardless of position, that even ties into some teams' draft philosophy. But I digress. If we're just talking about pound for pound, regardless of position, best player, man, I think Jeremiah Love, who for those of you who didn't watch much college football, was a dominant tailback at Notre Dame, I think he may be the best player in the draft. He's going to be a game changer. He's going to be a franchise-altering player when he gets into the league, and I hate to see him go. But I look at people like him. I'll tell you another one I look at is Caleb Downs, who, of course, was a safety, and once upon a time he was at Alabama, and then he transferred to Ohio State, started 1 year at Bama, started 2 years at Ohio State. And he's been viewed as a sure thing, like slam dunk, can't miss first round guy since he was in high school. And everything about him sort of verified itself on the college stage. And not only was he a slam dunk 5-star guy from the neck down, from the neck up, he was a borderline 6-star, if we even have that classification for a player. So sometimes what I have found when I'm watching guys in college that are so polished is, ironically, the high level of play and their refined pedigree ends up being a knock on them in the draft process. Not that it's a bad thing, but people will look at guys like Caleb Downs as opposed to other guys who are very, very high upside, raw, but all the tools in the world type guys. And they'll say, well, Caleb Downs, the thing about him is he's so refined. His game is so advanced that we're probably seeing him way closer to his ceiling as a player than, that of several other guys who admittedly may be a little bit more project types, but if we hit on them, they'll be out of this world slam dunk guys. Well, I think Caleb Downs even now is an out of this world slam dunk guy. So I ask myself, what is he at his floor? Caleb Downs at his floor is an all-pro caliber safety in the league for a decade. Like that's kind of how he strikes me as a player. So even if the worst were to happen, well, I guess the worst would be injury. So outside of that happening, next notch up, if the worst were to happen and he just ends up being more of what he's been, dude, you hit. That's well worth a top 5 pick to me. I don't want to run anyone's franchise for him, but I was looking at a lot of the mock drafts today. Jesse, I saw him in the 10 to 20 range. I don't think I saw him all the way down at 20, but I saw him like 10 to 15 range. Again, we could get into the positional value debate. I get all that, but I remember, you remember when Brian Branch was coming out a couple of years ago? Quick 5-second timeout. Check and make sure you're subscribed to the channel. It keeps it free. We love you. All right, back to the show. And I remember some of the same kind of conversation that was happening around him. First off, he had played at Bama, so you had the whole, is he maxed out in terms of potential? You had the positional value thing, and then you had his specific skill set, like he's not going to be a sideline to sideline range type guy. Jesse, you're a Lions fan. How's Brian Branch doing? Done okay. Got 2 thumbs up from the control room. I think Caleb Downs is better than him. So Branch was early second round? I think he fell to the second round. Caleb Downs has not fallen to the second round. I don't think he should fall out of the top 10. I think, obviously, it's an insanely loaded wide receiver draft class. I would be curious as we get closer to draft time, what ends up being the over-under for wide receivers taken in the first round. Because that list that we have right now, Casey Concepcion is on here, Mekhi Lemon, Carnell Tate. Denzel Boston's a kid out of Washington that probably not a lot of people watched this year, because Washington wasn't in a ton of high-profile games. He's a really, really good player. Easily a first-round potential type player. Jordan Tyson's in there. Cooper's in there. Jeremy Bernard's a guy from Alabama who I don't know if he projects as a first-round guy. I just know he projects as probably like a second, third-round type. Would you say so, Jesse? Like second, third-round type that I would be very surprised if I hit the fast-forward button 4 years. I didn't see him signing a pretty big second deal in the NFL. Antonio Williams, kid out of Clemson. Like, there are a ton of first-round potential types. We're pre-combine right now. We're pre-workouts. We're pre-interview. So I know it's early there. And then the other thing at the quarterback position, which will obviously get a lot of run, is, all right, if I get past your Fernando Mendozas, if I get past your Ty Simpsons, if I go to that group of quarterbacks that at least as of now we figure to be non-day one guys, day two, day three type guys, you've got to assume that a couple of these late round quarterback drafts are going to hit, and you're going to hit fast forward a couple of years. And most likely you're not asking a guy to come in and start, obviously, but you're going to look down the road a couple of years. You're going to be looking in divisional playoff games. You're going to be looking at conference championship games, maybe even a Super Bowl, and you're saying, dude, Garrett Nussmeier's about to win a Super Bowl before fill in the blank. Guys that went much higher than him. Cade Klubnik, Drew Aller, Carson Beck's a guy I think probably a little bit closer to his ceiling in terms of potential than those other guys. But like, take Carson Beck. All right, if I dropped him in a Seattle Seahawks type situation right now, there aren't many of those, I'll grant you that. But if I were to put him in that kind of environment, like Carson Beck could be a high-level quarterback in the NFL because of what he's being asked to do and what he's not being asked to do. Luke Altmaier, like what could he be at the next level? Taylon Green in the right offensive system, what could he be at the next level? Baron Morton's on this list. Miller Moss is on this list. Sawyer Robertson is on this list. I don't know how they would classify this quarterback draft. I would even go as far as to say they probably don't look at it as a star-studded quarterback class. Fair enough. But I do think that's more fun for people like me, because that means there aren't as many headline names that you're going to hear on night one. That does mean that there are names that you and I are fluent in speaking the language of, that are day two and in some cases day three, which ironically gets me more excited than, talking about Fernando Mendoza to Las Vegas again. All due respect to Fernando Mendoza. So that's how I look at the draft. I don't really look at it as fit. Notice I didn't mention a single NFL team outside of the Seahawks, and that wasn't even about their draft specifically. I look at it from a college perspective.